Hello Scholars, this is Kendrick here. This short video is going to be about Chapter 2, Section 2-1. This is going to be Understanding Integers, okay? Alright, so I'm going to try my best to go through a pretty good amount of information in a short amount of time. So please remember that if it seems like I'm doing too much or I'm talking too fast, pause, rewind, watch what you need to watch over again. You have control of the video, okay? The video does not have control of you, at least I hope it doesn't. But you have control, you guys. Pause it, rewind it, watch it again, take good notes, do all the things you need to do so that you can ensure that you're understanding the topic, okay? Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start to really understand integers. What does integers mean? There are different categories of numbers. We've kind of learned, or we have discussed a couple of them in class, including the counting numbers, just like we would use to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so on. It can go on for a long time, but think about all the numbers that you can count. Then we have whole numbers, making sure, and whole numbers goes with the counting numbers, meaning you have, a whole, like one whole pizza or one whole, flock of sheep, okay? Counting numbers, things we can count. Then it goes into integers. Integers are numbers that have whole numbers in them and positive and negative numbers. So hopefully, I think in 5th grade, you guys do begin to learn about positive and negative numbers and the number line. So to be able to understand integers, you need to understand that there are whole numbers, positive and negative numbers. There are also going to include some fractions as well, okay? But let's go over the number line to make sure that you understand what is a number line. Please remember that a number line looks something just like this. It's a line that has numbers on it. Very simple. But remember that in math, a number line will almost always look like this. There is a certain format. And in pretty much any country in the world, math is considered a universal language. Because in pretty much almost, as far as I know, all countries around the world, math is the same where you go. So even if you couldn't understand the language, you can understand that if I were to draw this picture here or any other country, as long as they have been to school, they're going to know that this is a number line. In the middle, almost always, we start in the middle with 0. On the right side of the number line, this is my right hand here, you have the positive numbers. So we put a little plus sign. And positive numbers go that way, from the 0. If we go to the left side of the number line, they are negative numbers. So negative numbers continue this way. Please take note that it starts at 0, and on the right side you begin your numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We do not put random numbers here. They are in order. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it goes on forever and ever. If we go to the left of the 0, we have negative numbers, but they start immediately after the 0. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and it would go on forever. Negative 4, negative 5, forever and ever. Just please make sure you remember to start from 0, and on the right you begin 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the left negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. You should not start with a random number such as negative 15. That does not make sense. We start from 0 and we start counting. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. This is important. Please make sure you really do understand a number line, and you need to understand that it is the same format all the time. It will never change for you in math. Excuse me. Most number lines are horizontal. Horizontal means this goes across. There are some number lines, which we'll discuss in a little bit, that go vertically, up and down, like a thermometer. And we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to I'm going to show you guys one important thing. And one thing you do need to learn is how to plot a number. Because on your homework, it's going to ask you to plot these numbers or these letters on a number line. To plot means that you're going to take whatever it is they're asking you to do. For example, this says plot 2 on the number line. So I'm going to use the red one here. We're going to plot 2. That means you need to find positive 2. There's not a negative here. positive 2 on the number line, and then you're going to draw a nice, good, visible dot. I have plotted a point. That's all it means, you guys. It's nothing more complicated than that, okay? You plot a point. Plot 2 on the number line. I have plotted the point by finding the positive 2 and putting a nice big dot on there. Please do not do this. I discussed this in class, but if you weren't there, you might have missed it. Please don't just do a tiny dot to where I can't see it. If I can't see it, I won't be able to give you points on your homework. Okay, let's try another one. What if I say, let's plot -1 on the number line? I need to look on my negative number side. I need to find -1, and I'm going to plot the point. Simple as that. Okay? All right. This is kind of the first part we're going to go over. So again, if you need to pause right now, pause the video, stop, maybe rewind and watch this again. Or maybe if I wrote this too fast, or you couldn't follow along, pause it, rewind, and write down this important piece of information. Okay? But I am going to erase it now. There's another important piece of information you need to know for this section, and that is opposites. Because they are going to ask you to find the opposites of certain numbers in your homework. When they ask you to find the opposite, that means you need to find the opposite of the number. Meaning if I have a positive 2, the opposite of that number is going to be a -2. It is as simple as that. If they ask me, what is the opposite of -3? Very, very simple. What's the opposite of a negative? A positive, right? You would write +3. What if they ask us about a fraction? What if they say to find the opposite of a +1/2? If that's a positive, you just keep it the same. Please remember that reciprocal means to flip. Reciprocal and opposite are not the same. Please don't make that mistake. Opposite means if this is a +1/2, I'm just going to make it a -1/2. That is the opposite of a +1/2. The same goes for decimals. If they ask you to find the opposite of a -0.5, your answer would be a +0.5. Okay? All right. Again, this is kind of the second part. If you are not quite sure, rewind and make sure you go over again my examples. Don't make it harder than what it is, though, you guys. If they ask you to find the opposite, that just means to find the opposite sign. Okay. I'm going to continue. This is going to be kind of like part 3, where we learned about real-life examples for using positive and negative numbers. So this is going to be our real-life examples. For example, I was talking about a thermometer. We have thermometers, right, that kind of tell us what the temperature is. And in the middle is a 0. Above the 0, we have all the positive temperatures. For example, it is right now summertime. I think today the temperature is going to be about 97 degrees. That is very hot. If we go below the 0, these are going to be very cold temperatures. For example, maybe we have a -15 degrees. That's going to be very cold. Okay? This is an example of a number line that is vertical, meaning going up and down. But this is also a real-life example of positive numbers and negative numbers. Even if we have maybe 80 degrees, if that's positive, that's still pretty warm, right? Be careful though, what if we have maybe 20 degrees? That's still pretty cold, but that's still a positive number. When we start to go in the negatives, this is going to be where it's going to start to get very, very cold. But this is a real-life example of positive and negative numbers that we use in real life. Let's look at a different example. Let me change my colors. A different example is altitude or depth. So we have altitude or depth. When we talk about where we are on Earth, we talk about altitude or depth. If you are at sea level is always 0. I think they still do degrees for altitude, but we're just going to say 0. Sea level, you are at 0. You are not high and you are not below. You are exactly in the middle. This is something that you need to just memorize. So please make sure you write this down. Sea level is 0. Now when you start to travel away from the ocean, usually you'll go up. Usually, not always. For example, I believe up here in the high desert, we're around 2,800,000 feet. So let's look at that. We are altitude, we are above sea level at 2,800 feet. Positive. If we have an altitude, we are positive most of the time. Okay? If we're talking about depth, if you go below sea level, so think about divers and sea animals like whales and fish and sharks. Those animals and the divers who go down below sea level and they dive down, those are considered negative numbers. For example, maybe a whale can go, I'm sure they can go maybe negative 200 feet below sea level. This will always be expressed as a negative number. So you can have some kind of altitude and be positive, or some kind of depth and go negative. So this is another real life example of positive and negative numbers. And you're going to see that a little bit in your homework. Okay? This was a video to help you guys with section 2-1. If you guys have any more questions, please make sure you let me know. Email me, join homework hour at 2 o'clock. Do what you guys need to, okay? I believe I've gone through enough information, though. If there's something I'm missing, again, let me know, and I'll help you as much as I can, all right? But this was chapter 2, 2-1, understand integers.